Welcome to Windows on the World, bringing you cutting-edge news, empowering information, and no conspiracy theories. On tonight's show, Sean Hross, welcome back to Windows on the World.
Hi, Mark.
Yeah. Hi. You've had quite an eventful time recently, and it's indirectly to do with one of the videos you posted, but an incident that happened some time ago. Can you tell us what happened?
Well, they sentenced me to a prison sentence, and it's all based upon lies. So I have to go next week. I have to be in prison, and it doesn't look good because they murder here in Switzerland. They murder a lot of people. There's about 10,000 asylum seekers that have gone missing. I think they incinerated them because Adolf Hitler, he was financed by the Swiss, by General Ulrich Wille in 1923. They started to do this, and all the top responsibles of the concentration camps, they were all Swiss. There was this guy, the most historians, they say, the top responsible is Heinrich Himmler, the guy of the SS, but that's not true. He was responsible for the SS, or the security side or military side of those SS butchers. But there was a guy who was responsible for the political and medical side. And his name was Leonardo Conti, Obergruppenführer in the SS, so a general, four-star general. And they also called him the Swiss sadist. He's responsible for the death of millions of people. And then there was another Swiss, his name was Dr. Ernst Rudin, another doctor, Leonardo Conti. He was the Reichshealth Minister. He was also a doctor, can you imagine? And the other one was Dr. Ernst Rudin. So he was the father of eugenics and Hitler's mastermind. And he was responsible for the idea of the concentration camps and the genocides and everything. And the concept. And then there was another, and even Himmler, his father was born in Lindau in Germany on the Swiss border at Lake Constance. His mother was born in Austria, in Bregenz, also on the Swiss border. So around Switzerland, there's a whole area of so-called ethnic Swiss. And they want to integrate them all into a big Swiss empire. It even was in the newspaper this year, because in Switzerland, the Nazi party, the extreme rightists, they are ruling. It's called the SVP Nazi Party. It's really very bad here.
It's very interesting, Sean, because we've talked about the history of Switzerland, how it was set up and how it's now a neutral country, and really where the Swiss Templar connection. We've covered that on the show, and I think people are unaware of how powerful Switzerland is, because obviously it displays itself as this kind of neutral country where everyone's happy.
Yeah, it's better for business, to present yourself as being neutral, but they are not. So very bad things going on here, and the Swiss are very good in hiding it. They're like smiling through their teeth. The Germans are not very good in hiding things. They like to go with the arms up and Heil Hitler and all these sort of things. But the Swiss are very, very different. In Germany, there are two types of fascism or Nazism. There's Nazism for the poor, as it started in Germany, because the people were, was the Workers' Party. the National Socialist Workers' Party. And then there is Nazism for the rich, and that's Switzerland. And they're not really friends, because the Nazism for the rich, they took over the Nazism by the poor, and it became a very elitist party, even against the German people. And this is still going on in Switzerland, the Nazism for the rich and by the rich, where the aristocracy, I call them the aristocracy, because all pharaohs, they're very much mixed into it. So I'm a nuisance to them. And it's all related to, in 2010, there was an Austrian guy, Wolfgang Umvogel, and he wanted to sell banking CDs about tax evasion in Switzerland to the US and Germany and France. And the Swiss Secret Service, they caught him, and in only 2 weeks' time, the man got suicided, a young man. They suicided him. The same thing they're going to do to me. They already promised me to do this to me. So now they have to go to prison next week, and they're going to suicide me.
Yes, if we could just get back to your case for a minute, Sean.
Yeah.
It revolves around an incident with a police officer originally. Is that right?
Yeah, so that was in the thing with the Austrian guy. It was in 2010, in October. Then I helped writing the biggest Austrian newspaper an article about it. It's in the internet. You can read it. If you punch my name, Sean Hross, and Wolfgang Umvogel and Kronenzeitung, the biggest newspaper in Austria, well, it pops up. And in this newspaper, they even wrote down, that the Wolfgang Umvogel, he was suicided. So that's very rare. They write something like this in the mainstream media, and that he was tortured by code O2T. That's oxygen deprivation. That's what they do here in Switzerland, especially to immigrants. So then a couple of months later, I got arrested by the police. Fortunately, I was with my wife, and I wasn't alone. And the policeman, I was friendly to him, shook his hand. I said Sie in German. You have to say Sie like vous in French. It's a polite form. You cannot just say you. And the guy, he went into the car. He stayed like 20 minutes in the car. When he came out, he said, "Well, we're gonna give you a complaint for threatening me." I said, "What?" He said, "Yeah, you just threatened me. You got his orders, to get rid of me, to get me in prison and then kill me."
Sorry, Sean, can you just tell, just for the sake of the viewers out there, can you state where this was and what the event was?
Yeah, that was in Burgdorf. That's it's a very high Nazi concentration in Burgdorf in Switzerland. It's in the canton of Bern, where the bear is, like the bear John saw in the Revelations. And the bear of the standard bearer of the Roman army. It's all connected. It's all the same thing. And then, I tried to film this, the corrupt, aggressive cop. And then he hit me. And I've got a little sequence. I had to stop filming because he was so aggressive. He put his hand on his gun. And there's another user, Marino Delfino from England, Marino Delfino. He analyzed it, and there was even a UFO hovering over, and the guy had this really black, inhuman eyes, like alien sort of eyes.
I've seen that video actually, Sean. Yeah.
Yeah, and the original is the first or the second film on my channel, Gatzefrats, really. So then a month later, I got all the stuff. That was in 2011, in the beginning, and I got all the stuff of the Justice Department. And then another month later, I heard on the radio a policeman got shot, and I knew instantly that was my policeman, and indeed it was. Somebody else got very scared of this.
Just going to clarify something here, Sean, as we're talking about this case. So you were issued a fine. Was it like an on-the-spot fine, or was it a court matter when you were accused of threatening this policeman?
Yeah, it was a court decision. Finally, a month later, when I got the papers, a month after I got arrested, They put it down a little bit. It was not threatening anymore, but I was swearing and shouting, and I wasn't behaving decently or something. In Switzerland, if you don't behave decently, you go to prison. Apparently,
is that the equivalent? Sorry, Sean. Is that the equivalent of breach of the peace?
I don't know. Actually, it was him. He was aggressive. I was very decent. So they just here in Switzerland, if you're an immigrant, I'm South African. They just lie things together. It's even worse if you're black or Chinese or Muslim, and they lie things together because the SVP Nazi Party in charge. They want to pull up the criminal statistics so they can go to parliament and say, well, look, all those immigrants and all those Muslims, they are dangerous and they're all in prison. So we need more laws against foreigners and immigrants and more racist laws. And so this is the thing, what's going on here in Switzerland. It's very, very bad. And they have a very big impact on all the Nazis communities in Europe. They go and have speeches in France. As the Swiss, they speak all languages. They already speak German and French inside the country and Italian. So they're going all over, and nobody's doing a thing against it. And it's really very dangerous, I think.
Well, it is. It sounds very much like obviously what you're saying. It's agenda-led, and it's to create an agenda, political agenda. So they're victimizing people. Now, so basically you were fined. Did you pay this fine, or what happened?
No, I didn't pay it. I mean, it's not just. I didn't do anything. And if you start paying, then you never stop paying anymore. And actually, I've been here for 17 years. I've got my wife and children here, 3 children with my wife. We're all being terrorized. My kids were there several times when they arrested us. And even two months later, after the first arrest, they sent me an anti-terrorist court. It was in the newspaper as well. They put 3 guns on my head, a bandage over my eyes, like in a CIA rendition, handcuffs, foot cuffs, and then they threatened me. And they said, well, you have to take off your YouTube videos and etc. Otherwise, next time, and don't talk about Switzerland, or next time, we're going to pull the trigger. So this is real. It's a real mafia, and the Swiss have always been a mafia, with the Nazi banks and all that.
Yeah, it's interesting, Sean, because that sort of thing is happening here. Obviously, they don't put a gun to your head and put you in chains and put you in a blackout visor. But the police have done similar things here to citizens recently over very minor issues. So I think it is a worldwide thing, and it's obviously part of what we call and they call the New World Order. I'm just wondering now, because you've got some video evidence here which clearly proves that you weren't antagonistic to this police officer. Have you ever thought about producing that evidence and showing them?
Well, I put it on I showed it to the Justice Department as well, but they just do what they want, they're just a bunch of liars. And actually, you say it happens in England as well. But I can guarantee you that those policemen who are doing that in England, that they are Swiss as well. There was a Swiss British. No, I'm serious. There was a Swiss British Legion fighting for the Queen in Ireland, killing the Irish, and also in the Crimea during the Crimean War. I think there was in 1800 something. And it's the same thing in the US, and this is called Octagon. You have to see my film, Octagon, the Empire of Darkness.
That's a great film, Sean. It's a great introduction to the Knights Templar and the cult of Octagon, which is an absolutely... it's a huge subject, but it's actually quite simple. It's about a group, an army that was set up called the Knights Templar, also known as the Poor Knights of Christ, who, as we know, were not really a religious order, more a kind of looting operation. We're going to take a short break, and we'll see you in a couple of minutes.
convince a sceptical public about geoengineering?
Okay, well basically the weather has been experimented with since 1928. There was a process for producing artificial fogs, a US patent. Like I say, 1928, so we're just under 90 years of weather modification experiments.
They've got a warrant to search for and remove you from your place of residence, and have they also arrested your wife? Is that right?
That's right, they did it.
We have in the studio David Compan, NHS electrician just released after being sectioned under the Mental Health Act. If you weren't with anybody, you'd have just disappeared. Nobody would know where you are, and you can be detained indefinitely.
That's right. Thank you very much for all your support. Thank you very much.
So, Sean Hross, welcome back to Windows on the World.
Hello.
Yeah, we've just been talking about this allegation that's been made against you, and you have video evidence to prove that this cop who accused you of being aggressive was actually aggressive himself. You've got that on video. They then sent you a fine for some kind of offence, which would be, I presume, some kind of breach of the peace. It's now escalated into a much larger fine, but in this time, this cop has actually been killed by a civilian, a member of the public, because of his aggressive behaviour. So can you just now tell us a little bit about the history of this? So you've actually documented this in your videos, I know that. And so this guy was shot by a member of the public. Can you just take it from there?
Yeah, well, in Switzerland, everybody has a fully automatic assault rifle, caliber 223 Remington, just like the NATO caliber, just as the British Army or the SAS or the Yanks. You know, it's a caliber 223 NATO. And but he didn't have one like this. You know, he had a 9mm pistol because he was in the medics. And he got so afraid of this cop. He was a young guy, and they wanted to evict him in the middle of the winter, just out in the streets, you know, in the middle of the winter. I mean, where are you going to sleep, you know?
So there's an eviction being carried out, and the police were there, or do the police carry out the evictions in Switzerland?
The police, yeah. And so he was so aggressive, apparently, this cop, and I know he was aggressive. He was like a schizophrenic guy, you know. His name was Hans Rudolf Kühni, and to some people he was like behaving nicely, but he had really a split personality, I think, you know. So this Swiss guy, the young guy, he got very much afraid of him, and he probably said, "Go away, leave me alone. I don't want to go out in the street." So he shot a couple of 9mm through the door, and he hit him in the stomach in one of his arteries. So the dangerous cop, he bled to death. So thank God. So I have to pay 13. Yeah, and then this guy, he got sentenced to a lifer. You know, this cop's killing people here all the time. You know, and they never do 1 day in prison. But if you kill a cop, well, you're going to take a lifer. And this guy too, he just wanted to be left alone. You know, and so he got a lifer. You know, just you know, doing his own business, like, you know, and because he didn't want to get terrorized by the police, and he got afraid, so he shot a couple of rounds through the door. And just before his supreme case, he didn't agree with the taking a lifer. You know, they found him dead in his cell, and that's another thing happening in Switzerland here. The moment, you know, you apply for you appeal for a Supreme Court, it gets very, very dangerous, because they want to rub everything under the carpet, and they don't want any case, you know, to appear in front of a European court like in Strasbourg, which is the next step. So first there's a local court, and then there's the Supreme Court in Switzerland, which is in Lausanne with a lot of obelisks on it. I filmed there once. And the next step is the European Court, and they kill you. The Swiss absolutely don't want any European court cases, because they would ruin their clean Switzerland face. You know, it's a lot of bad things going on here. So as I don't have any income, you know, I've been here for 17 years. They've done really absolutely everything, you know, to make my integration impossible. I would have liked, as a historian, to work at a university or something, but they made it absolutely impossible. Put me in prison all the time for nothing. So I can't pay 1,300 francs, and which is about, I don't know, 1,000 euros, I suppose.
Yes, it probably just under £1,000, I think. Yeah, which is sterling.
And there's a lot of bad things going on. I had a son here. They kidnapped him 12 years ago. They came and chop off the leg of our cat. We're having murder threats all the time. It's really it's a, the Swiss are very, very evil people. I mean, I've seen many places, but I would never say that, in general about the people, because there's everywhere good people and bad people. But here you absolutely won't find any good people. They're all a bunch of Nazis, and they're very, very evil. They financed Adolf Hitler, and they just got away with it because they're everywhere on key positions. Even in England. I mean, why do you think, the English royalty, they all go skiing in Switzerland. They all got their money in Switzerland. They don't pay any more taxes in Britain. So it's only the poor going to pay the taxes. So it's bringing a bigger gap between the poor and the rich. And they all got their money stashed in Switzerland,
Well, this is absolutely right. In the Bank of International Settlements, as we know, we've covered this on the show, and you've covered it extensively under the IMF, the Bank of International Settlements, the City of London. This is pretty much how the world is run financially, and obviously Switzerland is hugely important in that, as we know, because of the Templar connection, which never disappeared. The Knights of Malta, as we know, are the Illuminati, and they are pretty much running everything. So just summing up, Sean, if anybody wants to help you out financially, is there any way they can do this?
It's a bit short. It's only 1 week left, and then they can ask for my address and just send me some money. Yeah. And talking about finances, there's a very dangerous thing coming up. Now you will read it very soon in the international newspapers and in England. The Swiss, there's going to be a referendum next week on next month, on November the 30th. And apparently their gold has gone missing. They can't find it anymore. The Nazi gold.
I think this happened in America too, and it's also happened in Britain. Allegedly, our gold was sold, and some of it apparently wasn't real gold. But this is the whole scam being exposed. The whole of the financial monetary system, the fiat monetary system, is based on the fact that the currency is backed by absolutely nothing.
Yeah. No, I mean, before we had electricity, gold was just gold, But then with the electricity, because it's a super, it lets the electricity through, almost like, well, now we got glass fibers, but gold is still very much appreciated, like in space crafts and all that. They're using gold as gold-plated things and all that. So gold is not only it's not just a backup for the money anymore, but it has become a how do you call it? It has become a commodity, and we have come into a world where commodities are more important nowadays than gold. I mean, if you're hungry, you're not going to eat any gold. And the new science and techniques of things, it's far more important than gold. So things have changed. But, well, Swiss have been robbing for 700 years with the Templars and the Nazis, the Nazi gold. They have been robbing gold for 700 years, and now it's gone. And it's well, apparently they don't know anymore in which cave they left it or under which rock it is. And so they're going to have a referendum, and if they're going to vote yes, the gold must come back by itself, and if it doesn't, they're going to blame the immigrants for it again, as they always do. So it's a very, very strange thing going on, and even Ron Paul already talked about it on YouTube and said, well, Switzerland is the only great dictatorship in the world. And then I had a look, where's he from, Ron Paul? Why, he's from Pittsburgh. And if you look at the Wikipedia website, Swiss American, you can see that Pittsburgh was founded by the Swiss, and he's living in the middle of the Swiss belt, like Pennsylvania, Missouri, and Ohio. It's all the Swiss belt. There are at the moment 1 million Swiss Americans living in the US, and they all went for the key positions like the police, octagon, as before. You know, they have been into the Roman legions and with the Nazis and the Swiss mercenaries. They've always been killing for the Pope and the aristocracy, and they took the key positions in America. Even 1/3 of all the American cops, they're using Swiss weapons, Sig Sauer. And also in England, they're using Swiss weapons. So how is this possible? I mean, if they're not occupying key positions in England and in the US. And I tell you, they do.
Well, it's their homeland. Switzerland is the homeland of the Templars, and that's exactly who run everything. You know, the Templars are running everything still from their base in Switzerland and really the city of London. But we wish you all the best, Sean, and if anyone wants to help you, they can get in touch with you. Is that through YouTube, or is there any other way they can get in touch?
Yes, through YouTube and my email address. Maybe you can put it in the links. And and they can also contact you, and you can give them my address, and they can just send it in an envelope. But there's only 1 week left, and I'm gone. You know, they're gonna kill me. I think they murdered so many people here. It looks very, very bad, very bad. I mean, the enemy is not the Muslims or the Islamic State. You know, they just want to have their own state. The enemy is Switzerland. They are really the biggest enemy, you know, financially. They have the military wing, the octagon, the Templar wing, the financial wing, even the religious wing. You know, they're connected with the Vatican and the Swiss Guard. They're everywhere in it, really everywhere. And they brought so many tears to England, you know, by the war and financing Adolf Hitler, bombing Coventry. It was all, you know, that's why Hitler, he never listened to his own generals, because he listened to the Swiss generals. And the Swiss generals, they told him, well, go and bomb London and Coventry. And it's all Swiss, believe me.
Yes, it's all out of Switzerland and the Knights Templar, and we wish you all the best, Sean, and we'll speak to you very soon.
Thank you, Mark.
Thanks for joining us on Windows on the World. Remember, keep watching those, watching us, watching Windows on the World. We'll see you soon.